It began in the summer of 1986, when Carmen and Al Snedeker moved their family into a modest house in Southington, Connecticut. They were desperate. One of their sons was battling Hodgkin's lymphoma, and the location was close to the hospital where he received treatment. On the surface, the home was affordable, convenient, but what the Snedekers didn't know, what the landlord never revealed, was that their new house had a gruesome past. The home had once been a funeral parlor. The basement where the children would play still contained tools used for embalming, a body lift, the blood drains cut into the floor. The walls had seen countless corpses prepared for burial. The family moved in anyway, convincing themselves it was just a house. But soon, the walls began to whisper otherwise. At first, it was subtle. Cold spots. Odd sounds in the night. But the activity escalated quickly. The children spoke of strange figures walking through the halls, faces pale and eyes empty. One of the sons, already weakened from illness, was reportedly the most affected. He began hearing voices, claiming to see shadowy men who threatened him when no one else was around. Carmen herself described being touched by unseen hands, her blankets ripped from her bed at night. Objects moved on their own, and foul odors, like rotting flesh, would suddenly fill the air. The family's personalities began to change. Arguments erupted. Dark moods lingered. It was as if the house itself was feeding off their fear and despair. At its peak, the haunting turned violent. One of the sons claimed to have been physically attacked, even possessed. Carmen spoke of being pinned down by an invisible force. The Snedekers believed they were under siege not by a single spirit, but by something far darker, a demonic presence lurking within the walls of the old funeral home. Desperate, they turned to famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who confirmed that the house was infested with malevolent entities. According to the Warrens, necromancy and desecration had taken place in the basement during its days as a mortuary, opening a doorway that invited something inhuman into the home. The haunting was so intense that it caught national attention and was later chronicled in the book In a Dark Place by Ray Garton. Years later, the events would inspire the film The Haunting in Connecticut.
Why do bad things happen to good people? We're just a regular family like anybody else. We didn't ask for this, and we didn't deserve it. It's perfect. It's spacious and affordable. I'm just wondering, where's the catch?
Well, it does have a bit of a history.
Matt?
Who put these things under the floorboards?
Matt! I have to get my son!
But unlike Hollywood fiction, the Snedekers' torment was rooted in reality. A family trapped in a home where the dead refused to rest, and where something darker than death itself clawed at the living. Even now, decades later, the story remains one of the most disturbing cases of a family under supernatural attack. Some dismiss it as exaggeration, others insist it was real. But the truth is simple. The Snedekers never looked at their home, or the darkness of death, the same way again. So when you turn off your lights tonight, remember this: sometimes it's not the graveyard that's haunted. Sometimes, the spirits come home. Deep in the woods of Colorado, there stands a house where shadows move when no one is there, where whispers follow you from room to room, and where the line between the living and the dead is blurred. This is not just a ghost story, it's a family's nightmare that was caught on camera and broadcast to the world. In the quiet pines of Black Forest, Colorado, the Lee family thought they had found their dream home. The year was 1991. The house sat on a stretch of wooded land, beautiful and secluded. It was supposed to be a safe place to raise their children. But soon after moving in, the Lees began to realize that something else was already living there. At first, it was subtle. Strange lights flickered in the trees outside. The sound of footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Doors opened and closed when no one was near them. But the activity didn't stop. It grew stronger, darker and impossible to ignore.
We looked at it, at first it just kind of looked like a haze, and then it started taking shape, and it was like there was some kind of mountain trapper type of person in some kind of big wool cloak. We would walk up and try to see if we could put our hands up to the smoky area or see if it felt cold or see what was happening.
The family began to see shadowy figures moving through the rooms. Cold winds rushed through the house even when the windows were shut tight. Objects moved on their own. The smell of smoke filled the air, though nothing was burning. The children were especially targeted.
And then we saw some shadow, and my friend said, "Did you see that?" And we all saw it. Then my friend came running up and grabbed my camera and started running towards the tree and started taking shots. It did something that I will never forget. I couldn't believe my eyes. It ran through a barbed wire fence.
They spoke of strange voices whispering their names in the night. One of the sons described seeing a man dressed in black, standing at the foot of his bed, who vanished the moment he screamed. The Lees began to fear that their home wasn't just haunted, it was infested. Over the years, the family documented over 3,000 separate incidents of paranormal activity. Lights darting through the woods, apparitions appearing in broad daylight, phantom phone calls with voices on the line that weren't human. The family even set up cameras and captured glowing orbs and figures they couldn't explain. The case drew the attention of national media and investigators. Paranormal teams who entered the home confirmed that the activity was unlike anything they had seen before. Many believed it wasn't just spirits, but a doorway, something that had opened inside the house, allowing entities to pass through. To this day, the Black Forest haunting remains one of the most thoroughly documented family hauntings in America. Skeptics dismiss it. Believers call it proof that something beyond our understanding exists. But for the Lee family, the haunting was no story, it was their daily life. What would you do if your family lived in a home where thousands of paranormal events unfolded? Would you stay and fight, or run and never look back? Some houses are built with bricks and wood. Others are built with memories, tragedies, and things that never left. In Atchison, Kansas, one house has drawn investigators, skeptics, and thrill seekers from around the world. They call it the Sallie house, and inside its walls, the line between the living and the dead is frighteningly thin. The story begins in the small river town of Atchison, often called one of the most haunted towns in America. Its streets are lined with historic homes, its past filled with restless echoes. But among them, one house stands apart. A quiet, white frame house, unassuming from the outside. To the locals, though, it is a place of whispers and warnings. The legend goes back to the early 1900s. A young girl named Sallie was brought to the home, then the residence of a doctor. She was suffering from severe abdominal pain, believed to be appendicitis. The doctor attempted to operate, but without proper anesthesia. Sallie cried out in agony before her small body gave out. They say her spirit never left, trapped in the very place where she suffered her final moments. For decades, the house passed from family to family. Strange occurrences became so common they were simply whispered about in town. Lights flickered. Cold spots lingered. Footsteps echoed through empty rooms. But when Tony and Deborah Pickman moved in during the 1990s, the haunting took a darker turn. Tony was scratched by unseen hands, claw marks appearing on his body as if from something with violent intent. Objects moved on their own. Electrical disturbances plagued the home. And the nursery, once filled with toys, became a hotspot of activity. Investigators later claimed to witness those toys being moved as if a child was playing with them.
The nursery in Sallie House is of particular interest to those fascinated by the paranormal, as Sallie's spirit, many of them believe, is still here. This Chiefs football at the center of a strange moment in view of a low-light camera. Watch this closely. As that flashlight fades, look what happens next. The football rolling back, untouched.
Did you make that ball move?
That question aimed right at Sallie. In the house's guest book, you'll find notes telling of voices where the name Sallie is heard, or a child's voice saying, "Mama." Is it Sallie? And might it be her behind this mischief? Watch the blinds there on the left, closing. Nobody touched them. These people on the main floor of Sallie House oblivious to this odd moment. What is going on here?
Paranormal teams set up recorders and reported direct communication, voices of a young girl answering questions in real time. But not everyone believes Sallie is just a little girl. Some investigators warn that the playful tricks are a lure, that something more sinister hides behind the mask of innocence. The scratches, the violent outbursts, and the sense of dread that fills certain rooms suggest that the Sallie house may be more than just a child's restless spirit. Even now, the Sallie house remains one of the most investigated homes in America. People travel from across the world to step inside, to sit in the nursery where toys are said to move, or to brave the basement where shadows gather. Many leave with stories. Others refuse to go back at all. Don't forget to like the video, hit subscribe, and stay alert, because in a place like the Sallie house, innocence might just be the perfect disguise for something darker. In the heart of London's Mayfair district stands an elegant townhouse with a sinister reputation. Known as 50 Berkeley Square, this home has been called the most haunted residence in England. Behind its polished exterior, stories of death, madness, and restless spirits have lingered for over 2 centuries. The legend begins in the late 1700s and early 1800s, when residents and neighbors started reporting strange cries, shadows moving across the windows, and the sound of footsteps echoing in empty rooms. Servants refused to stay inside after dark, and rumors grew that an evil presence dwelled on the upper floor. By the Victorian era, the house had earned a terrifying reputation. One story tells of a young woman who threw herself from the top floor window, driven mad by what she had seen inside. Another speaks of a man who spent the night in the upstairs room, only to be found dead the next morning, his face frozen in horror. Sailors from the HMS Penelope are said to have stayed there one night in the 1840s. According to accounts, one man who slept in the haunted room was attacked by a dark, shapeless figure. He tried to shoot it, but his pistol misfired. The next morning, he was discovered lifeless, his companion driven insane from what they both witnessed. Visitors described the entity as a shadowy, twisted mass, sometimes taking the form of a ghostly woman, other times appearing as something inhuman. The atmosphere was said to suffocate those inside, leaving them paralyzed with fear. Over time, the house was abandoned. For years, no one dared to live in it. Shops now occupy the lower floors, but the upper rooms, especially the infamous attic chamber, remain closed to the public. Staff who have worked in the building report cold drafts, whispers, and the feeling of being followed when they climb too high. To this day, 50 Berkeley Square stands as a reminder that not all hauntings fade with time. Its reputation has lasted over 200 years, cementing it as one of the darkest and most mysterious homes in England. If you spent a night alone in the infamous attic of 50 Berkeley Square, would you make it through, or would something find you? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. In the early 1800s, the Bell family of Adams, Tennessee, settled on a quiet farm. Their homestead seemed ordinary, rolling fields, a sturdy cabin, and acres of farmland. But within a few years, their property would become home to one of the most infamous hauntings in American history. It began in 1817, when John Bell, the head of the family, noticed strange animals lurking on the property, creatures unlike anything he had ever seen. Soon after, the family began hearing knocking on the walls of their cabin, the sound of chains dragging across the floor, and faint whispers in the dark. At first, the Bells tried to ignore it, but the disturbances grew bolder. Blankets were pulled from the children's beds. Hair was yanked. Dishes flew from shelves. The unseen force seemed to target John Bell most of all, cursing him, slapping him, and vowing to end his life. Before long, the entity revealed a voice. Calling itself Kate, it mocked the family, sang hymns, and carried on full conversations with visitors. But Kate's tone was far from friendly. She tormented the Bells relentlessly, especially John and his daughter Betsy. Neighbors and ministers came to witness the phenomena, leaving convinced that the Bells were telling the truth. Even General Andrew Jackson, before he became president, is said to have visited the farm. After spending one night in the cabin, he and his men reportedly fled, declaring that they had encountered something beyond human understanding. The haunting built toward tragedy. John Bell's health began to fail under the constant torment. In December of 1820, he was found dead. A vial of strange liquid was discovered near his bedside, and the Bell witch proudly declared that she had poisoned him. The entity then turned her attention to Betsy, tormenting her until she broke off her engagement to a young man she loved. After that, the activity seemed to lessen. By 1821, Kate promised to leave, though she returned in later years, according to family accounts. The Bell witch legend never died. The old Bell cabin is long gone, but the land remains, and so does the story. Visitors to the property, now a historic site with a reconstructed cabin and tours, report cold spots, disembodied voices, and strange lights in the fields. The nearby Bell Witch Cave is said to hold much of the lingering energy, with many claiming to feel watched or even touched as they walk inside. Today, the Bell Witch remains one of the best documented hauntings in American folklore. A farm that should have been a place of peace became a battleground between a family and something unseen. And 2 centuries later, the legend still whispers in the Tennessee hills.